Hi, John Sartin here with the Rio Grande Jewelry Tech team. Here with the Rio 7-inch precision guillotine shear. I'm going to show you how to assemble it, and I'm also going to show you a little bit on how to adjust the blades if you need to. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is obviously unpack the shear. It is a heavy shear, so get somebody to help you with it to lift it out of the box. This shear is actually the one that we use in the studio, and but I'm going to show you how to assemble your shear whenever you get it. So it's going to come with the shear itself. It's going to come with these rods. I'll show you what to do with those here in a bit. It comes with a handle. It also comes with a stop. So this is a length stop that I'll show you how to put in. First thing to do is let's go ahead and put the handle on. There are two spots that you can put the handle, either left hand or right hand. All right, so I'm a righty, so I'm going to put it on the right hand. Other than what I'm showing you here, pretty much everything else is going to come already pre-assembled. So you don't have to install any blades, you don't have to do anything like that. Now, these rods go to the back of the machine. So on the back of the machine, you're going to see these series of holes. Two of these holes are actually threaded. And that's where you will thread in a rod. And now this is where this slide stop goes on. So the slide stop is going to go on with this aluminum angled piece on the bottom, and these just go onto the rods like so. All right, this is what you're going to use to actually adjust your length. So if you want to do repetitive cuts, and I'll show you that here in a minute, how to set that up. Okay, so now that we've got the parts assembled, let's go ahead and cut a piece. You want to set this on a nice sturdy table. You don't want this on a table that is going to jiggle back and forth. So to cut, you are just going to set your piece of metal onto this extension table here. As you can see, this has a ruler, and the way that this ruler actually measures is it actually measures from the blade itself. So with the blade closed, you push your metal all the way up, it is going to tell you what the length of your work is. And this blade is at a 90-degree angle so that you're going to have a nice square cut on your metal. Let me go ahead and square this piece off. The way you can measure here is you can actually put your metal up to the blade, and then say you want to cut off an inch. Right now we are at looks like 4 1/16. So if I bring this up, I move this over to 3 1/16, and I cut. I'm going to now have my 1-inch wide strip. Now, if you want to do repetitive cuts, the best way to do repetitive cuts is actually taking, marking your metal. So say I want to cut a 1-inch strip. I can actually mark 1 inch with a scribe or a pencil. Bring this up to the 1 inch. So you see I'm lining this up with the blade. You can see I'm lining it up to the bottom of the blade. And then I'm going to set the stop. So we're going to move this stop in until it just bumps up against the metal. Okay. Once that does that, we're going to lock this into place. Make sure it's up. Okay, now I can actually do repetitive 1-inch cuts by just pushing it in until it stops and pulling down the lever. Okay, so now we have two 1-inch wide strips that are the same. Okay, so the precision shear also comes with a hold down. The hold down is especially useful for thicker stock. Thinner stock, you don't necessarily need the hold down, but what will happen as you are cutting thicker stock is the metal will want to lift. This actually prevents it from doing that. So we're going to slide this in, we're going to bring it up to our stop because we were just cutting 1-inch wide strips. I'm going to bring that into position. Now, whenever I pull down on this, it's putting pressure here and also it's cutting so that this metal is not going to pull up. And now you have another 1-inch strip. This has enough clearance that you can then go ahead and push your metal in again, bring it down, cut again. Now, one thing on this that I wanted to show you real quick is this little aluminum plate. And what this aluminum plate is, it deflects the metal so that the metal drops off and then it doesn't go down underneath the machine. This aluminum plate can sometimes be installed. Other times you might have to install it. And that's pretty easy because all you have to do is the screws will be there. You're going to back the screws out, put this plate in place, and go ahead and bolt it into place. Now I want to talk to you about adjusting the blade. So if the blade is not cutting, there are a couple of things that could have happened. One, you could have been cutting too thick a material or material that maybe you shouldn't necessarily be cutting on this. And that can actually throw the blade out of adjustment, or it can damage the blade in such a way that you're going to have to remove the blade, have it sharpened, reinstall it, and then you're going to have to adjust it. So I'm going to show you the quick way of doing this, and it has to do with these 3 nuts and 3 set screws on either side, on the front and on the back. What those set screws do is they move the blade carrier in and out. Okay, so you need to adjust these together in whichever direction you need to adjust them. And the way to do that is you're going to need a 9/16 inch wrench, and then I believe this is a 3/16 inch Allen wrench. So if this blade needs to be adjusted in or out, if it's not cutting, if it's actually just bending the metal and not cutting, the blade will have to be adjusted in. If these blades are starting to hit each other, then the blade is going to have to be adjusted out into that direction. So the first thing you would do is loosen up these lock nuts. If you've not done it before, it is definitely a little bit tough to loosen those nuts. What those nuts do is once you get the set screw adjusted to where you're getting a good cut, then these will lock that set screw in place so that the set screws can't move in or out. So once these are loose and you've determined the direction that you need to move the blade, then you are going to adjust these set screws either in or out. Now you're going to have to work both sides at the same time, meaning if this blade needs to go out, you need to loosen your back set screws and tighten your front set screws to push the blade towards the back of the machine. If the blade needs to come in, then you need to loosen these set screws and tighten the set screws in the back to push the blade towards the front of the machine. The best way to do this is actually bring the blade down if you can. If the blade needs to come towards the front of the machine, bring it down until it stops, and then adjust your set screws however you need to. You want the blade to run smoothly. You don't want the blade to bind. If you've got too much pressure on one side and not enough on the other, or too much on both sides, then you're gonna definitely know it. The blade is gonna bind, or your cut's gonna be off. So it takes a little bit of practice, but if you make sure that you adjust your machine if it needs to be adjusted, when it needs to be adjusted, and you don't do anything that you really shouldn't do on the machine, cutting too thick a material beyond the capacity of what's rated for the machine, or some materials that are harder than others, then this machine will last a very, very long time. After you get your blade adjusted, then you are going to want to go back in and you're going to want to tighten these lock nuts back down so that you don't get any movement of those set screws. And yeah, so there's the Rio 7-inch precision guillotine shear. So if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate, contact us.